Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fueled by Progress, hosted by me, Mark Joseph Szymanski. We have with us today Steve Gregory. What's up, brother? How you been?
I'm good, man. Just living it up. Excited to be here.
Nice, good stuff, man. Okay, so this is actually I would say, a very special episode because we've known each other for a very long time, and even just before we started going live here, we're having some good conversations about a bunch of different things, and I'm just super excited for this. So,
It's a long time coming. It really is.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of what you've been doing for some time, and kind of seen it from the outside, and
Yeah.
finally, for whatever reason, you decided to finally ask me. So I'm here. I'm happy to be here too.
I'm sorry it took so long.
That's all right. That's okay.
But I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. And just so I think, so from the people that maybe follow Fuel by Progress, or just, we're in the same kind of spheres as far as a lot of ball hockey and stuff like that goes, a lot of them probably know who you are. But even as we were just talking about before the show, there's probably a lot of things that maybe people don't, maybe have misconceptions. And like we were talking about, when you're in a ball hockey community or any community like that,
Sure.
you see people in passing and you see stuff like that, but you don't know like all of the things about them, or like, you only see one side of them.
Sure.
So for those of them that maybe don't know you, can you give a little context about, like, maybe just like your background, like how you came up, like your school and stuff like that, obviously Pittsburgh and all that stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll lead with what I do now, being real estate. So one of the things that I tout is Pittsburgh born, Pittsburgh raised, Pittsburgh made. So I mean, I'm Pittsburgh through and through. The fact that I was born inner city definitely kind of helps that. So I know all the like hidden gems of Pittsburgh,
Right.
and I think it's helped me with my real estate. But even then, I mean, growing up, my dad started inner city hockey organization, and that's kind of what kind of catapulted me from the ball hockey realm of things.
Right.
But all things considered, it's everything that I've experienced growing up has kind of made me who I am. I've experienced some not so great things, but definitely have had the opportunity to be surrounded by a lot of good people, and over the course of time had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life, and been able to experience hockey on a international level and even a national level. Some of my best friends now, especially in the hockey realm, some of my best friends are actually not from Pittsburgh. So it's amazing what hockey does to you. And then I'm sure you can speak to this too. Doing what you're doing now, hockey teaches you a lot.
For sure.
It really does. And I think when you have the opportunity to play something or be so passionate about it, you take so much of that and apply it to your daily life. So whether it's a relationship with, your wife, or, brothers or friends or work, or, whatever you become passionate about, sports definitely does that. So, I mean, I've played sports my entire life. So hockey's been the consistent throughout. I still remember playing in a church gym with my brother over at Springview. I think it's St. Leo's is the church. And I still remember our first game. I mean, it's so funny to think back, and like we thought the rink was so big, and it's like, no, it's this tiny little gym. It's just. But then we played Springview, and that's where we played football. And then my dad started Brighton Heights, where we played baseball, and then it became Team Pittsburgh to the mecca that, in my opinion, mecca that Team Pittsburgh is now. So. It's a crazy journey. It really is, but it makes you what you are. So it's all right.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we can just dive right into ball hockey too. I mean, because like I think a lot of people, again, know you from that, and I just think it's incredible. I look at it all the time, and I mean, we can start back where our relationship started. I think I was in cadet, and you were my first coach, I believe, at Team Pitt.
Yeah. So one of the things that I kind of the footsteps I followed in were Corey. So Corey Hirsch is the coach of my team, my men's team now. He's coached the national team. He's the director of USA Ball Hockey. I've kind of always followed in his footsteps. I wasn't a teacher like he is, but everything, we're so similar in so many different ways. We're students of the game. And much like him, he started coaching at a pretty young age. I did the same. Now I hope he sees this and hears this, but he started coaching because he couldn't cut it anymore. So That wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
It was just the fact that I purely enjoyed the game and coaching the game. And, and I think I was 16. I think I was 16 whenever I first started coaching. And I was coaching Beavers, I think, at the time. So 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And, it teaches you to grow up because, you got to get the trust of parents a lot. I still remember one of the trips we made out to New Jersey. Might have been a couple years after that, but had to have been. Yeah, had to have been. I think I was maybe 17 or 18. But again, coaching young kids, and I literally have a giant SUV full of like 14-year-olds in my car. I'm literally driving. I'm going to go and play myself. Yeah. And I have like half of my team in the car, and the parents trusted me to do that, So it helps you grow up. But so coaching, was kind of went in line with playing. I never stopped playing. And once I started coaching, it kind of helped me scratch that itch a little bit even more, and had the opportunity to meet, people like you and other guys that maybe over the course of time we've kind of drifted apart a little bit. Right. But naturally with, everybody, it's one thing whenever you're 14 or 15 years old, you don't really have a life other than sports and stuff like that. Whereas, you start becoming an adult and you get, college and friends and stuff like that, you start to have your own life. So, but and it's cool. It's, I think we were talking about before, we obviously know each other and very pleasant with each other. Yep. We tend to play against each other more than play with each other. But we've always, I think we've always had a mutual respect to, the way that you play the game and the way that I play the game, and obviously understanding that, we love playing the game. So.
Yeah. It's such an interesting thing. Like, like you were saying, there is so many things that you learn just from playing a game like this, and you played it for so long. And when you develop that sort of respect for the game, but also other players, I just enjoy the camaraderie. Yeah. I mean, you go up against, especially you at the level that you've played at for so long. You go against really good players from all over the world, and I've always been wondering of that. Like, there's probably even probably most of them don't even speak the same language. Like, do most of them even speak English? It's like there's just like most of the time I would say like an unspoken respect.
Yeah, and I think everybody plays it. I mean, it's a little bit different in the United States than it is other countries because other countries they get paid to play, whereas in the United States, even at a national level, you're there for the love of the game. Right. Like you're there to just leave it all on the line. You're not getting paid. There's not big sponsorships or anything like that. So I think to some extent, I think a good bit of the countries that we would play against on a national or international stage are similar to that. But then you have your horses like Canada, like Czech Slovaks, those kinds of teams that they're government backed. It's crazy. Wow. It is. It's crazy.
I didn't know all that.
Yeah, and I think. It just because that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a different perspective of the game than we do, because you still love to play the sport. You think about it, like Canada, like Danik Martel is probably one of the best players that I've ever seen or played against. Yeah. Well, he's playing in the NHL. Yeah. It's like, yet he's traveling halfway across the world to play in a ball hockey tournament. Right. So it's like, clearly he's not getting paid to do it. So he's doing it for the love of the game. And so I think there's that natural respect that everybody has for the people that are willing to lay it all on the line for nothing, for just the pride of playing and, the pride of being champs and pride of being good at a sport that I think is unfortunately overlooked.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. I know that it kind of is overlooked, obviously, sort of, I guess, in the shadow of ice hockey, just because it's professional. But like, what would you say? Because you know this better than I do, because you've been in it longer, but you've also been like deeper in it longer. What are your thoughts about how much the game has grown just since like you were a cadet or when you started?
Yeah, man, it's grown really, really fast. Yeah, especially in the last like 2 or 3 years. Yeah. It's absolutely exploded, and it always helps. Just like anything, it starts at the foundation level. So it's not even the men's program that's really blown up. I think that was kind of the driving force, even the women's program, because the women's program is really good. I think they're the ones that help get the notoriety, but it's the foundation that was built with the junior programs that has helped it become something that's just unbelievable at this point in time. So when you're talking about, the exponential growth that the sport has seen on an international stage, it's helped the domestic side of things. Like the New Jersey area is the biggest pool of hockey players in our sport. It just is. And I think it wasn't until the junior programs really took off that you really started to see those numbers even escalate even more. It does help that, at one point in time, ASHI, which is the American Street Hockey Institute, was established, and that kind of went the wayside after a couple of years, and now USA Ball Hockey is king now. It's the only thing that's out there, and they're making these monster strides towards not just the areas that they're in now, like the Pittsburgh area, the Jersey area, the Boston area, but they're expanding everywhere. They got some fantastic partnerships that are looking to put rinks in Texas and California and the Chicago area, DC, and I think because of that, that's how you see something like the NBHL, which you and I played on the same team a couple weeks ago, a month ago or so ago. That's kind of where that started from. So it's literally just the trickle down effect from there. But in my personal opinion, it's because the foundation blocks were built from the youth program, the excitement built from the youth program, and I think you're seeing everything grow because of it.
Right. I mean, it's super exciting. Like you said, just as somebody that, obviously plays a lot but isn't as ingrained, I mean, everybody can see it. It's tremendous. And then, just like the NBHL, I think that's going to be tremendous. Obviously, a weird year this year, didn't get to play out exactly.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because there was some pretty exciting stuff that was happening with that. The Pittsburgh, I think, was the biggest division. I think there were 10. I want to say there were 10 teams in the Pittsburgh division, and that was the biggest of the cities that were going to partake. Chicago was involved, the Boston area, Jersey area was involved, DC, and then obviously the Pittsburgh area too. But there was, again, it's the foundation blocks are there, and it is falling on such a unique year. Thanks a lot, 2020. But the foundation blocks are there, and it's going to do just absolutely wonders for the sport moving forward. And there's already excitement. I mean, even the NBHL tournament that we had, the out of town teams, like I was getting text messages from guys like why isn't this happening in our city? Like why aren't we doing this and everything like that? And it does help that you have Corey in your backyard who organizes everything. For sure. But there's already tons of excitement, and like I said, I think it starts from the youth program for sure.
Yeah. So, like, with that, too, obviously, you're still very much a player. And we played on the same team. What do you see, like, moving forward as far as, do you plan on doing a little more coaching? Like, what's your, like, or even leadership, like with either Team Pittsburgh or, like, NBHL? Obviously, you're a huge face in the game. So, what do you kind of, like, right now, what's on your immediate radar? Still mostly a player, or?
I've always said I as far as a player is concerned, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I'm still young. I mean, I'm only 31, but the last handful of years, my body's just started to deteriorate. It's like I literally kicked the shit out of my body for forever, and now it's starting to catch up. It's like arthritis in my wrist, and then it's like you pull a hamstring, and then it's like the kind of stuff that you aren't dealing with when you were 25, you're dealing with now. So I've always had the approach of I'm going to walk away while I still can. It's not going to be I can't play anymore, or maybe I shouldn't play anymore because I'm not good enough, or I can't hack it anymore. I feel as if like I'll be done before I have to be done. I'm going to be the one that makes that decision, kind of a thing. And I guess it's a unique mentality because I'm a firm. I pay attention to a lot of like some of the top tier athletes. I'm a big proponent of like the mental aspect of the game. And there's some that have the belief of you're going to have to, like, obviously the whole Kobe thing happened, unfortunately, not too long ago. And like his mentality was something that I was like a huge fan of. And some have the belief of you're going to have to carry me off. And then others are, I'm going to be done before I have to be carried off. And I think our sport's a little unique in the sense because you're talking like at a professional level, NBA or whatever, you're talking about the elites of the elites. I mean, the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas our sport, I think it's the poor man's version, and it's a bad connotation. I don't think it's necessarily completely true,
Right.
but it's the poor man's version of ice hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your elites of the elites typically play ice hockey and maybe also play ball hockey. But I think for the most part, the people that play ball hockey are kind of like their tight-knit community.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I probably didn't answer the question as far as like me playing is concerned. But I was disappointed. I'll say this: I was disappointed that the Worlds got pushed back another year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in Banff, or Alberta.
Yeah.
And I was disappointed because I definitely wanted to play because I didn't play the last time.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take a year off. I needed to just deal with some, I needed to recover a little bit mentally and physically and everything. But as far as like the sport as a whole is concerned, I mean, I'm heavily ingrained with USA Ball Hockey. Mm-hmm. I'm the tournament director for USA Ball Hockey. So any USA Ball Hockey sanction events and things like that are what I would coordinate and what I'm going to help run with that. Mm-hmm. As far as coaching is concerned, I mean, I still love the game. And again, like I still consider myself a student of the game, mm-hmm. regardless of how long I've been playing. There's always stuff I can learn. Mm-hmm. There's always elements of the game that I don't know or I can know a little bit better. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing is like practice. Like I love, like my brother all the time asks me to come down and help like his team practice or something. Can you help them run drills, or they need to work on power play, or they need to do something. It's like, that's where I'm in my zone. Like that's where I absolutely love being. Yeah. The big picture stuff, I think I'm a little bit beyond that at this point. Mm-hmm. I was asked to coach one of the junior teams that was supposed to go away this past year, and it's just not something that I can necessarily commit to because just life's a little bit different than what it was back when I coached you. Got a job that requires a lot of me, and it's just sometimes it's just not as easy to kind of fully commit. But I mean, I always say, I mean, I'm there to help anybody. If you want to pick my brain about some coaching stuff, like I always tell people, all you got to do is call me. Like that's all you got to do. You want a one-on-one session with, your son or something like that. Like I'd be more than happy to do that. You just got to call. And I get, nobody wants to bother anybody, doing whatever, but whatever. And it's.
Well, that's dope. There you go. That's an invitation. Anybody that wants a one-on-one time with Steve Gregory, just give him a call. You can do a little side business with that. Maybe.
Yeah, do the side hustle. Right? Do the side hustle.
Yeah. And that's a good thing too, because like, so you mentioned a little earlier, and this is something that I think a lot of people, even like so again, like you said, ball hockey community is expanding rapidly. Mm-hmm. You have people at like a top tier that are playing internationally, some playing A, B tournaments, all that sort of stuff. Then you have like even just your in-house rinks, just people that just like to play, right? And are just out there doing something because it is a cheaper way than like ice hockey and all that sort of stuff. Talking about that though, you mentioned that other countries actually get paid to do that. Mm-hmm. Is that something that maybe you like ever had the opportunity to do or ever asked to do? I think some Americans have actually gone over to Europe to play before. Yeah. Like, what is that like, if you have any experience with that or anything about that, what's that like? And do you see that ever being a potential? Is that like the end goal, would you say, to get almost like the NBHL of America? And like,
so the end goal, I can tell you this definitively, the end goal is for it to become an Olympic sport. Like, that is the end goal. Yeah. But in order to do that, it needs to be a global thing. Mm-hmm. I believe there needs to be 26 countries that have a like a governing body, if you will. Yeah. And they have to get approved to do that. Mm-hmm. So even though USA Ball Hockey is this big thing right now, bigger than anything that's ever existed in USA up to this point, they still need to get qualified. Like they still have to be approved, if you will. So there's 26 countries, I think, that have to do that. So that's the end goal. That is 100% the end goal, to do that and it become an Olympic sport. But I still think that's a little bit ways down. I mean, it would be great. Aren't the Olympics in LA in 2026?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I think so.
I trust you.
I think so. Well, I have a nephew that is in he's a gymnast, and he's hoping for the Olympics in 2026. Nice. So I think it's somewhere right around the 26, 28. Gotcha. I know it's kind of like every other year, summer, winter, and all that crap. But that's the goal. Mm-hmm. As far as like the other guys, so like there have been Andrew Hildreth was up from Leominster area, and
Mm-hmm.
he actually studied abroad in Switzerland, and he actually played professional hockey over there while he was over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was able to do that because he studied abroad over there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's back in the United States, but he actually stayed over there for a couple of years and played full time, like, and got paid to play over there, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There has been some USA guys that have gone over there for a month or so and, played a season or a big tournament or something along those lines. But, it's so much more organized over there.
Really?
So much more organized. But keep in mind, we live in America. What's the number one sport in America? Football.
Right.
I mean, hockey's way down the list.
Mm-hmm.
So from a popularity standpoint, it's not as important. Whereas over there, it's nothing but hockey.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing but it. So in that sense, it makes a little bit more sense for it to be a little bit more organized. Right. They've been at it, I think, a little bit longer than we have as far as like the sport as a whole is concerned. So it's not overly surprising, but at the same time, it's still something that we can learn from and hopefully build from, any mistakes that they might have made or, the things that work for them, try to, duplicate that and implement it into what we're doing here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because I don't, it would be awesome to see just obviously the continuous growth, but, if the NBHL would continue to grow to that sort of a stage, just because I think that, long term, it might allow people, because you mentioned, it's like maybe you would like to do other things like ball hockey, your passion,
Sure.
right? And obviously, though, the bottom line though is everybody has to still make a living because you can't be a professional ball hockey player like you could be an ice hockey player. So I mean, it's just like an unfortunate reality, which is just based on timing. Hopefully, with the situation and the the game hasn't caught up to that yet.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know. I'm kind of torn in that sense because if that aspect goes away, then I don't think you'll have as passionate people playing the game.
Yeah.
Playing the game for the love of the game.
That's fair.
In a sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, that's one of the issues that I always have. One of my real good friends, him and I talk all the time. It's like, I hate today's athlete because it's all about money. It's all about, self-branding and like all this stuff like that. And it's like, it just drives me nuts because, back in the day, and I know that money wasn't nearly, you didn't have a $500 million contract like Patrick Mahomes got. Like that was unfathomable 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But, it's like there's times where I feel like athletes aren't playing for the love of the game. And who the hell am I to say?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't get paid to play something that I love.
Right.
But I feel like athletes are a little bit different. And in my personal opinion, I think that's what makes hockey players a little bit unique because the absolute end goal is to raise the Stanley Cup. Whereas I feel individual accolades, I think first and foremost in some of the other sports.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that topic specifically, whether it's ball hockey as a passion versus, like real estate or for a living type of thing. Yeah. Obviously you love real estate and we'll get into all that as well. But that's always something that's interesting to me. Like for instance, I know people that really like photography, but they don't want to go into photography make it a living because then it might not be their passion anymore and they might not love it. I never really thought that way, but I can definitely understand how people could think that, and then ultimately how money would start making decisions rather than the things that you actually like to do.
Sure.
It's a tough one though, because I've always thought like if you could do the things that you love and make money, then your whole life is always good in a sense.
So what's the old saying is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life or something along those lines, right? I think that's true. I personally feel like that's I'm living that. Like there's no doubt in my mind that I'm living that. Right. But I also think, one, I don't make millions of dollars. Don't tell anybody, but I don't make millions of dollars.
Yeah, we'll cut that out.
No, cut that out. But, money I'm sure does change people. And I don't know how it does. I don't know why it does, but I would imagine that it does. I feel like if you can do that, you can do photography for a living and still love it as long as, you're not doing it for the money. You know what I mean? Right. I guess that there's a fine line there because, I do what I do because I love what I do. The secondary aspect of it is the fact that I make money from doing it. I truly believe that if I got paid to play ball hockey, it wouldn't change the way that I prepare myself. It wouldn't change the way that I play the game. It wouldn't change my priorities in life. I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not making millions of dollars doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making life-changing money like some of these athletes are.
Right.
Somebody that might have come from nothing, has come from poverty, you know, scratched and clawed their way all the way to the NFL, and then all of a sudden they're making millions of dollars. I mean, I think a guy in the practice squad makes like $12,000 a week or something like that. I mean, that's life-changing money to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Let alone making $500 million like Patrick Mahomes. Like that's crazy.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's I understand the point, but I also to some extent disagree. Simply because I feel like that I'm living that right now. I thoroughly enjoy what I do, and I don't dislike it anymore because that's the way that I'm making money. That's my income.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Obviously it's different for everybody.
Sure.
And, you know, I think just that's what I try to preach. Because I've been in situations where like I didn't like what I was doing and I just felt miserable.
Yeah.
And, you know, it starts to weigh on you.
Sure.
And then, you know, you feel like if you continue to do that, it's just going to keep getting worse, even if you're getting paid. Because that's the thing, right? That's almost like proof is that, like, what if you were getting paid $100 million a year to do something that you hated?
Sure.
Probably wouldn't make it any better.
No.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And that's, I think it's a good segue because, it's kind of how I got into real estate.
Yeah.
So before this, I was working for one of the radio stations in Pittsburgh, and I was making pretty good money, but I was miserable. Yeah. I hated it. And I'm a very nice person. I'm a very kind of happy-go-lucky person in a sense. And it was an extremely cutthroat business, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. My colleagues were like, you know, sliding in behind me and stealing clients of mine. Like I had a manager that she said to one of my good friends while I was there that she didn't like me. Like it was just miserable. It was a toxic work environment. Yeah. And it got to the point where I started bringing that home. Yeah. And my wife's a PA. So she works long hours. She gets overworked. Like she gets abused. I don't know if you know anybody in the medical field, especially nurses or PAs or NPs or anything. But they get trampled on a daily basis, and it's not fair. But my goal is whenever she comes home to be the positive, to be okay. The day's over. Now I can like enjoy the night, or dinner's done, or whatever. Right? What got to the point where she said something along the lines of like, you know, you're not yourself, or, you know, you're miserable lately or something like that. And I stopped and I thought about it. I'm like, I can't do that. Yeah. Like, you know, I feel like I have a role in this relationships, and that role is to be the positive one, right? To be the shining light of after a shitty day when she comes home or something like that. And when I wasn't that, it was like a slap in the face. I'm like, I gotta do something about this. Like I gotta change. I gotta this can't be. Like I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So luckily, her being the saint that she is, you know, she was okay with me, you know, quitting and pursuing real estate. And I'll tell you, I'll be very honest. First 2 years, I'd say if you make it 2 years in real estate, you'll make it. First 2 years, I made buckus. I made nothing. Yeah. And it was just so hard because you're starting from scratch. You don't have any leads. You don't have anything. So I ended up falling into the brokerage where I'm at now, and they take care of their agents a lot more than the first brokers that I was with. Right. And I think the combination of that, and it was going into my second year that I was with them, had an understanding of kind of what was doing a little bit more, that kind of allowed me to really kind of flourish and kind of really care. And you know, I hope that everybody who's had the opportunity to deal with me kind of feels the positivity and the caring that I have towards them, because I genuinely care about my clients, and it's no bullshit. Like I'm honest to God, it's 100%. Like I care so much about making sure that they're taken care of. And it's a line that I always use to all my clients. I always say, I don't care if you buy a house, but if you are going to buy a house, you need to completely understand what you're getting yourself into. Right. So, you know, I think because I can take that approach, I think it's one of the reasons why I've kind of over the past couple of years, I've really started to be successful, and I don't plan on changing. I mean, I'm still a humble kid. I'm a positive guy. I think you have the opportunity to share positivity or share negativity, and I think sharing the positivity is a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think that specifically like that approach there that you just said, like positivity versus negativity. I've always tried to be as much of an optimist as I can, because I really do believe that when you bring in or when you put out like positivity in the world, you're just going to get that back most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think it's regardless of what you do, right? I mean, I was just having this conversation, the unfortunate political conversation at a family, nonetheless, a family Labor Day party, right?
Always great.
Yeah, always fun. But I ended up saying, I was like, when did it become okay to not hold the door for somebody, or if somebody holds the door for you, to say thank you?
Right.
Like when did that become okay to not do those things?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And it's just like small stuff like that every single day. Like, and it's corny as hell. I know that it is. It's corny as hell. And I try not posting a lot of stuff on my social media about like, positivity, because not everybody wants to see that, right? Yeah. But at the same time, like, I truly try to make somebody smile every single day.
Yeah.
Try to make somebody's day. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Giant Eagle. Well, not Giant Eagle. Aldi. Aldi always has like 2 lanes open, right? You can always do self-checkout at Giant Eagle. But you go to Aldi and there's 2 lanes open. And the only time I ever go to Aldi is to get like 3 things. Yeah. So I'll have 3 things. I can't tell you how many times somebody with a cart full says, "You know what? Go ahead of me." Yeah. Why can't we do that more often? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like, why can't you let somebody over in traffic who clearly is in the wrong lane, right? Yeah. But no, you have to pull up beside him, flick him the bird. He flicks you the bird. Now you're both pissed off the rest of the day. Yeah. Like, why do we have to take that approach to it? Yeah. And I think if everybody just tries to be a little bit nicer to everybody, if everybody tries to be a little bit more positive instead of negative, if everybody thinks about what they're going to say or what they're going to do before they actually do it, it's like, I post stuff on social media all the time. It's like right before I hit send or submit, I think, okay, is this going to piss anybody off? Yeah. Is this going to be okay? Like, is somebody going to be offended by this? Yeah. And if they are, then I'm not going to put it out there. It's not worth it. It's just not. I mean, there's no point in doing it. Yeah. There's no need to spread more negativity and more poison. Trust me, there's plenty out there. Yeah. Let's not add to it. Let's try to counteract it a little bit and maybe spread some positivity. Definitely. So I completely agree with you 100%.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting, like we've talked about a little bit, and like you mentioned there with like the random political conversation that you have to have with family members and things like that. It's tough because everybody has opinions, and we talked about it a little bit before we went live, and everybody has opinions, and rightfully so. I don't think anybody should be silenced
100%.
But at the same time, though, I think that we fundamentally have a problem, not just politically, but just as a society. We don't, like you said, like if everybody put those concepts into place, right? Little things each day to hold the door open type of thing, sure. And more so just use your fucking head, like use your brain before
Common sense, right?
before you post things, before you talk to somebody. It's, I don't know. I personally enjoy. This is a little I guess narcissistic. I personally enjoy being liked, right? Yeah. I think most people do, right?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's like, but like it's a fine line, because like you want to make sure that you're positive and you're happy and you're nice to people, which isn't hard to do.
No.
But at the same time, though, you got to make sure that you don't kind of like you're not like extremely like malleable in a sense of your beliefs and stuff like that. So it's understandable that it's a fine line that you have to walk.
Sure.
But I think it's more than. I mean, everything's in moderation. It's not like you're just one way or the other. So I just feel like if more people kind of thought that way and tried to implement some of those things into their life, I think the world would just be such a better place all around.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that about being liked and everything. So just a quick little story.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
I got an 85-pound chocolate lab. Yeah. All right. He's all bark, no bite. He's the sweetest dog. My wife... she took him for a walk, and this was before we got a particular like harness on him because he's 85 pounds. He's a strong dog.
Yeah.
She took him for a walk, and he must have got her like mid-step or something like that, and he kind of like started to take off.
Yeah.
Pulled her like down a hill, like she couldn't catch her balance, and all this dog wanted to do was just get to this other dog and say hi.
Yeah.
Like no malice intent whatsoever.
Yeah.
Well, it happened to be an older dog, and it was an older guy, and like all that stuff like that. So it absolutely ruined her. So she came in the door. She was crying like you wouldn't believe what happened, blah, 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 stuff like that. So she refuses to walk the dog now by herself. So either I have to walk the dog or we walk the dog together. So sure enough, the next time, it had to have been the next day, and we're walking the dog. And the same old man and the same dog were outside in the yard. And I have him, and like I'm pulling him, and like we're going or whatever like that. And she was like kind of like, doing one of these like, don't remember me kind of thing. Yeah. Well, sure as shit, every single time I walk past, I make sure that guy waves to me. I make sure I ask him how his day's going. I tell him to have a good day, because it's like, like I'm going to make him if he doesn't like me, I'm going to make him like me. He's going to like my dog, even though he like ran over and got yelled at and all that stuff. I was like, you're going to like me and you're going to like my dog. But it's like, you choose. Yeah. Either hate your neighbor or try to befriend the neighbor. Yeah. Like you have a choice to be positive. Yeah. You have a choice to spread positivity. Yeah. And if you choose to not do that, I probably don't want to be around you much because there's no need for that.
That's so strange. Like, you ever think about that? Like, and to whoever's watching too, like, you ever think about how could somebody possibly not like you if you're just nice to them?
Yeah.
Like, I think about that all the time. I'm like driving around. I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm like, wave to people and they don't wave back. I'm like, okay, I'll wave to you. Like, I'll wave to you again tomorrow. Whatever. It's like,
every time.
Like, kill them with kindness type thing. It's like, what the
man. You're going to hate me because I'm nice to you, right? It's just like, no, but that's the honest to God truth. Like, you have a choice, and they have a choice too. Yeah. Like, that's the way it is. And I feel like if I'm able to, make somebody's day once, right, maybe they'll try to make somebody's day the next time. Yeah. Or, they're having a shitty day, and you never know what somebody's going through, but they're having a shitty day, and all of a sudden, you tell them you like their pants or you love their shoes or something like that. And it's like, you have no idea how you can affect somebody and the effect you can have on somebody just with a small little comment. Mm-hmm. And again, the comment could be, hey, buddy, flick him the bird because he cut you off in traffic. Or it's could be like, no, like, he might be late for work, so I'll let him over. Like, oh, I need to be one more spot ahead in traffic that we're going to stand here for an hour, It's like, so it's a choice. And I think if everybody chooses a little bit, more kindly, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, definitely. I like how you mentioned that it kind of plays into your real estate career as well. You said earlier that you go into it, and I'm anxious to hear sort of like your whole process or just like the way that you handle this, because I think it's very admirable that you said that you go and you're like, hey, you don't have to buy a house, but if you do, here's everything. Like, like you're not trying to sell it to them. You're trying to actually help them. Yeah. And I think that is, for anybody that doesn't know, like I was in the real estate industry, like I wasn't an agent, but I was a part of an agency, and I was like in marketing. So I was dealing with a lot of agents, much like yourself. And we need to talk about your marketing tactics and everything like that, because that's top notch. But the process itself, I feel like a lot of people like kind of don't understand that. I think that your route is just going to yield so much more success because you're actually trying to help. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough. So I've had other people kind of around my age consider getting into real estate. And I think, the one bit of advice that I always give them is not to be easily deterred, because it is really easy. I mean, they typically say it takes 2 years to kind of survive in real estate. Once you last 2 years, then you're probably going to be able to make it. And it's because you need to develop a book of business and go that route and everything. Kind of get your feet wet and understand exactly what it is. But I lucked out because I came from a sales background to begin with. Mm-hmm. So I had sales in my veins from the beginning. Yeah. So it helped that aspect because I knew people buy from people they like. Mm-hmm. They can relate to. Mm-hmm. And I'm as authentic as you can. Like there's times my wife, she'll say like something. I'll be like, hey, like, I just got home. Like, I got to take the dog for a walk. Can I call you back? Like, I'll be talking to a client, a brand new client or something like that. And I'll say that. Yeah. And I'll get off the phone and she goes, I don't understand why you have to tell them what you're doing. I'm like, because it humanizes me. Yeah. Like I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a human being.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like you.
Yeah.
So I think real estate agents get a bad reputation because there are some really, really crude and sick real estate agents out there. I mean, they're very, very cutthroat. Yeah. I think you're starting to see the old school mentality go out the window. There's definitely an old school mentality of it's a me versus you. Like,
For sure.
I have to win. I have to be better or outdo you or out counter offer you or something along those lines. I think the newer real estate agents definitely have the mentality of, hey, let's do this together. Let's make this work together. You know, we're on the same team. You want to sell a house and I want to buy a house. I have somebody who wants to buy and you have somebody that wants to sell. Why would we not want to try to make this work? Yep. So, you know, I think from honestly just the approach that I take is just the authentic. You just I think you just have to be. And, you know, I've had, you know, one of my concerns when I first got into this was I felt like, and now in hindsight I realize it wasn't true, but I felt like I was perceived as a young adult, a young professional that wasn't experienced just based off of my looks. So just based off the fact that I'm 20 some years old, 30 some years old or whatever it was, I felt like there was a negative connotation towards me of, hey, you know, he doesn't know what he's doing. Right. And that's fine. You don't know that, but that's fine. But I'm going to be as honest and as genuine and as upfront of as a person as you can possibly be. And I hope that any experience that you've had in the past with any kind of other real estate agent, regardless of whether it's good or bad, you're going to look at me and be like, I like this guy. Yeah, I'm going to use this guy. Yeah. And again, you know, and when it comes to real estate, it's all about referrals, right? So if I treat you really good and you really like using me, well, then you're going to tell your family, you're going to tell your friends, and then all of a sudden, that's whenever you know, start to become successful.
Yeah. I mean, again, we talked about the authenticity thing. I think it's just, you know, from growing through life, you experience different things. Sometimes, especially when you're young, I think sometimes you try to be somebody that you're not, maybe because you're trying to impress like young friends or high school and all that sort of stuff. And I think you just learn. I know that I've learned that it's way easier to just be yourself all the time than it is to try to be somebody else.
Sure.
Because then, like, you're just putting up a facade. And then it's like you kind of forget who the fake person is, you know, sometimes, and it's just difficult. So
it's funny because my number one goal is always to come across as professional. Yeah. Like, you know, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, in transactions and stuff like that. Somebody's buying a house. It is a huge deal. It doesn't matter if you're a mom and dad downsizing and selling their house or you're newlyweds expecting their buying a first house. Like it is a big deal. It is a big transaction. Right. And it's my responsibility to make sure that they're led through this, you know, from a professional standpoint. So it always super important for me to come across as professional. So there is sometimes that fine line of authenticity and professional. Yeah. Right.
For sure.
Especially being a hockey player.
Yeah.
Now I can say that my potty mouth typically stays on the rink.
Yeah.
I say things on the rink that I would never
I think we all do.
Yes, never say off the rink.
Yeah.
But occasionally it sneaks out a little bit. So there has been a time or two, luckily, you know, it happened with somebody that was comfortable with it, but there has been a time or two where, you know, maybe I let, you know, a swear word slip or something like that. And but again, it's not, I mean, that's me. Like that's, you know, there is that fine line between professionalism and authenticity. And I think as long as you're kind of careful with that line, understanding what that line is, I mean, we're not all saints.
Well, we're all human, like you said.
Right. So, but at the same time, you know, if you lose a client because you, I don't know, said shit or damn or whatever it is, and you know, it happens.
Yeah. You know, I think about that all the time, doing some things and, you know, trying to, you know, client service based as well as, and it's like, you know, there's certain people that if you can't be yourself around, and again, there's a fine line, but like you just said there are certain people that, whether it's like a negativity versus positivity thing or all those sort of things, or you explain your value to them and they can't fully grasp it and they're not like full, you know, as a real estate agent, you know this, like you're a big part of the transaction. You know, you have access to things that they don't have. You just know like sort of the whole process better. So you're kind of like a liaison throughout the whole process. And if they can't fully understand that, they're giving you a hard time, it kind of goes back to that positivity negative thing. If I have too much negative energy in a situation, I kind of just want to remove myself from that.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, and it's again, you have to have your own values too,
Yeah.
right? So if you have a client that, you know, if you have a client that's sexist or racist or something like that, I'm sorry. As much as I'd like to take your money, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
Like then that becomes your morals.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, there is the fine line of walking, you know, from a professional, like I said, a professionalism to the authenticity of yourself.
Yeah. And
I think if your morals always point north, you'll never go wrong with leading with that.
Right.
So
for sure. So you mentioned that you were kind of in sales before, and you've transitioned now into real estate. So, and again, like you said, your kind of motivating factor was just helping people and stuff like that. I guess we can kind of bring that, you know, kind of extrapolate from where that comes from, you know, just like coaching and all these other things that you've done throughout your life.
Sure.
At this point in your real estate career, how long have you been in real estate?
It'll be 6 years. 6 years in November.
Okay, wow. Didn't realize it was that long.
5 years in November. 5 or 6 years in November.
Nice. So, becoming a seasoned veteran.
Right. Starting to get gray on the side.
All the stress. I want to talk about sort of like, we've talked about like sort of your process and stuff like that, but I want to talk about like a little bit of the journey and some of the strategy and tactics, because again, coming from my background in that, I truly do think that the stuff that I see from you is very good, and it continues to get better because of the authenticity and everything like that. So, like Instagram, Facebook, maybe LinkedIn and stuff like that. Yep. What are some of the things that, how did you get to this place? What did you do initially? What did you learn, and what are you trying to kind of do? Yeah.
So, I mean, just from a background standpoint, so I went to Duquesne and I got a dual major in marketing and management. Okay. So I have a marketing kind of background.
Right.
Now, I think anybody that went to school for marketing either fell into a marketing firm or did something marketing, or they went into sales, right? And if anybody knows sales is marketing yourself. You have to, you know, again, people buy from people they like or can relate to, so you have to market yourself. So anything that I've done up until this point has been doing that and trying to kind of fine tune that tool.
Yeah.
Up until this point, I haven't had to utilize the auxiliary resources that I have, like social media and like those different things. Yeah. Whereas before it was more cold calling, knocking on a door, picking up a phone and calling. Now I have different avenues that I can go and utilize them as resources. Right. Business Facebook page is a big thing. You know, anybody can share stuff. So if I share a house that I'm listing or something like that, I always ask people, hey, do you mind if you share it on Facebook and just spread the word? Yeah. You know, obviously the way that social media works, the Instagrams and you know, Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff like that. We live in an era where everything is literally on your phone. Everything's on your phone. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether it's phone numbers, whether it's emails, whether it's anything. So you'd be dumb not to utilize it and maximize it to the nth degree.
For sure.
And I definitely feel like that kind of coincided with my kind of start to rise with some of my success that I've had. Again, you know, if you last 2 years or so, you're probably going to make it. Well, that kind of coincided with when I really started to kind of crank up social media. And because of that, I mean, I'm already starting to see the effects of it. You know, people follow me that I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And I know they live in Pittsburgh, but I don't know who they are. Yeah. You know, I've had new clients that I've got. All of a sudden, you know, their brothers and sisters are following me and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, hey, do you know who this is? Like, I follow you, like, but they say they also follow you. Oh, yeah, that's my younger brother, you know, and they're going to be looking for a house in a couple of years. Nice. So, like, the residual effect of that has definitely been high as of late. And I do think that, you know, my the ball hockey world has definitely helped that too. It's so funny because it's amazing how many people know real estate agents. Like I thought whenever I started this, I'm like, shit, like I got all Team Pittsburgh. I got all my God's guys. Yeah. Like I got everybody. Yeah. Like everybody's gonna want to buy a house. They're gonna buy from me. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, why didn't you buy from me? Oh, my aunt was a real estate agent.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd.
It is unbelievable.
There's like 7,000 just in
I know.
West Penn multi-list,
It
I
is
think. Yeah?
unbelievable how many real estate agents
Yeah.
there are. So in the end, it's, it is what it is. But in the end, it's definitely something. Social media has definitely helped me catapult that. And, again, I try staying as authentic as I can on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to people buy from people they like and can relate to. So, if I post stuff about, it's amazing. I can post house stuff after house stuff after house stuff. The second I post something about my dog, it's unbelievable how many likes I get.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
So in the end, it's not about what I post.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it's not about, it's not about what I post. It's about the fact that I posted it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they see Steve Gregory Real Estate over and over and over and over. And they look forward to #motivational Monday on Mondays. Like that's something I always post. Like, so you start to see that every single week. Well, then the second they think, I think I want to buy a house. Yeah. Well, then it's like, well, I follow Steve, so we'll see what he has to say. Yeah. Or, and that's what that comes down to. That's marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to unpack there just because like I've literally lived in it for 2.5 years. And it's like, so the first thing is I love having these talks. I've had at least one other real estate agent sitting across from me at this table.
I'm second. Come on, Mark. It better have been family. No, I'm just kidding.
So apologize. But it was the same type of conversation when it comes to marketing, right? And obviously, as a real estate agent, I'm sure you get flooded with solicitations from like companies that are trying to get you to just do like random, like automatic posts about market data and stuff like that. There's definitely some upside to that. But I think what a lot of, and this is free advice for real estate agents out there that might be like feeling like they're struggling or something, like you just said, that isn't going to separate you from other real estate agents. Yeah. It's not going to humanize you. No. It's not going to make you like stand out or anything like that because you're just posting the same shit that other people are buying into and whatever. So absolutely. When you post things like you said about like, house things, it's good to share obviously your listings and stuff like that. But when you humanize it, you put some picture of your dogs or like we were talking about before, like, a date night or something like that. Sure. It's like now they know that Steve Gregory is a person and not just a real estate agent and then know you, like you, trust you. Maybe they'll be a little more excited to work with you.
Right. No, that's it. And I know, and I going into this conversation, I definitely wanted to bring it up because I know you're a fan of Gary Vee.
Oh yeah.
So one of the things that I considered doing from an Instagram standpoint was buying followers. Yeah. You get pounded constantly about, do you want to grow your followers? It costs you, $10.
Passionate about this topic as well.
Yeah. $10 to grow your followers by whatever. And I watched something or heard something that Gary Vee said, and it really resonated with me. It's like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, you can have 1,000 followers, but what's the purpose of you posting on social media? Like, what is the goal? The goal is for people to buy things from you, whether it's a house or you're selling Avon or whatever. Yeah. The goal is for them to buy whatever you're selling. Right. So would you rather 300 people that are genuinely, honestly potential clients of yours? Yeah. Or would you rather 1,000 people that not even a third of them are, or 2/3 of them aren't going to buy from you? Yeah. And it goes into the whole like perception versus reality aspect of it. It's like, holy shit, he has 1,000 followers. Well, he must be a really good real estate agent. It's like, no, I'm not buying into that. And that's the world we live in today. I mean, trust me, my world is not perfect, and I hope that those that follow me on Instagram don't perceive it as perfect. Right. But it's comical sometimes whenever I see people on Instagram and what they're posting. It's like, yeah, I know you, and your life's not that great. Like, it's not. So stop pretending to be something that you're not, or having a life that you don't really have. Yeah. It's
such a likes and followers and everything are such vanity metrics, I think. They are. Because especially like you just said, I just had this recently happen to me. I commented on one of my streams or something that I did, and I literally had somebody reach out to me and straight up tell me that they bought followers. And they said, "Hey, would you be on this call right now, or would you be talking to me if I didn't have that many followers? If I only had 500 or something like that?" I'm like, Well, no, not really, because that's not really why I took the call. I was more just like intrigued at like what the hell he was talking about
Sure.
or whatever. But that aside, there was a thing. Gary, I'm sure, has said that multiple times. There was a post is like, I respect the dude that has 97 actual people following him way more than the person that has 100,000
Sure.
bot followers.
Sure.
And not only because of that, just because, like you said, the thing is actually engagement, comments, and all that sort of stuff, and people that actually care about you. And actually just want to see that sort of stuff. It's
Sure.
just been so skewed over the years and like the way that it's evolved.
Yeah, and I think that's the world we live in today. Is
Yeah.
everybody's looking for confirmation that they're doing a good job, or
Right.
whatever. And it's just I maybe we're unique in that sense, because
Yeah.
I'm a stay in my lane. I'm gonna do me.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, don't follow me.
Right.
If your aunt's a real estate agent, then
Yeah.
you don't want to follow me, then don't follow me. I don't
Yeah.
care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But, to go back on that, on kind of on the flip side of it, though, and this is something that kind of ties into the strategy aspect of real estate, was so one of the things that I do on my Instagram is I follow a lot. So I am a huge food guy.
Yeah.
Food guy, beer guy, wine guy. Like, as long as it's Pittsburgh, it's me.
Yeah.
Follow so much of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime something posts, like one of my favorite places is Round Corner Cantina. It's over in Lawrenceville.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they post something, I always like it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But my purpose to doing that is in the hopes that next time I'm there, I tag them in something. I get they tagged me, or they post, or they like, or they share,
Right.
something like that. So there is that kind of trickle down effect
Oh, for
in
sure.
a sense, right?
It's like positivity, but in the virtual world.
Right.
It's the same
Right.
thing.
So, whenever one of the things I follow, hashtag PGH.
Mm-hmm.
What's another one I follow? I follow a couple different hashtags that are almost specifically Pittsburgh related. But the reason why I do that is because somebody posts something, they're clearly in Pittsburgh. Well, that's a potential client of mine, a future client of mine.
For sure.
So if they're going to post something, then I'm going to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to my Instagram page and they're like, oh, what's this guy doing? And then all of a sudden they like something of mine, and then we share each other's stuff, and all of a sudden, so then you have that kind of trickle down effect. So to some extent, I think likes are inflated. I think likes are pointless. I don't post for likes,
Right.
but at the same time, I like for the reciprocation of a follow, or reciprocation of a potential share, or something like that. And I also think that's helped me with my business. It's helped grow my business too.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's fine lines. There's moderation of different things, and there's like different strategies and all that sort of stuff. I think that you can never go wrong, especially on social media, for, like you just said, reciprocating of follows, likes, and all that sort of stuff. Because it's not to say that likes are completely useless. That's not it at all. It's just that you're like you articulated, the reason that you're posting can't be just, oh, I want 1 million likes. It's got to be like a little more authentic than that for it to work. It's got to be with like a purpose driven. And like you said, ultimately at the end of the day, what you're trying to do on your Instagram profile right now is you're trying to establish a personal brand.
That's it.
Steve Gregory, real estate, right? And I think you're doing a great job of that. And I think that, ultimately that's the aspect that I love, because it's like, again, I struggle with it because I think sometimes there's like a level of narcissism that I put on myself, because it's like I want people to like know what I'm doing, but at the same time, that's not really it. I don't give a shit that you like my stuff just because, oh, look what I'm doing. It's most of the time it's backed in the fact like, oh, I know about finance, or I know about podcasts, I know about this, the other thing. Maybe you're interested in this stuff.
Sure.
I know about this. I have experimented with it. I have some experience. If you'd like to learn more, consume my content, give me a call, whatever, like you said.
No, and in the end, I mean, you do what you do, and I do what I do, because we enjoy what we do.
Right.
There is nothing wrong with somebody else enjoying, one, like the content that we're putting out, or two, appreciating the fact that we're doing what we do, for the reasons why we're doing it. Right. So, I wouldn't call it a narcissist. I think that's a little harsh on yourself. But at the same time, I completely understand. I mean, of course. I mean, I post something and it's like, I got a coming soon listing or something like that, I'll post it. And it's like, of course I want people to see it. Of course I want people to like it or ask about it or what the price is or stuff like that, because that means they're interested. Now, selfishly, yes, they're interested because I want them to buy from me or I want them to sell. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of the realm of Instagram marketing.
I think, again, it just all comes back to the way that you're doing it, like the meaning behind it or the objective of it. And if you're just trying to help people, like I think, you know, both of us are, and a lot of people out there are, there's a few bad eggs, I guess, that are just trying to scam people and stuff in all sorts of industries. But ultimately, though, I think that can't go wrong with just trying to put your stuff out there as much as possible, establish that brand, and continue to, you know, have success.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a step. It's a step. So there's obviously plenty of ways to go, and I'm not looking for hundreds of thousands of followers or anything like that. It's that's one thing I always say is, you know, I sometimes have issues with some of the bigger agents, you know, because like they can't even field a phone call now. Like they got, you know, like a showing time app, so like they can't even call. I can't even call them and schedule an appointment, or like they won't call me and ask me, you know, what kind of feedback that I have for their listing. Like everything's automated. And again, maybe I'm just not there yet. Maybe they're just so damn busy that they truly don't have the time. But you know, it kind of goes back to being paid to play ball hockey kind of aspect. It's like I hope I never get that big that I can't. That I'm losing that personal touch, that interaction. Like I hope I never get that big. I hope I never get so busy that, you know, somebody can't call me and have a true, honest conversation about the listing that I have and what they thought about it. Like I truly hope that I never get that big. But
do you think that that's a super interesting thing? Because I just said that the other day. Like I hope that I don't, like, just like that, just don't get so successful that I have to do that. But do you think that is at all limiting yourself? Do you ever think of it that way, where it's like, because I mean, obviously you don't have a crystal ball. You can't tell if, you know, one day you could potentially, I mean, obviously in the ball hockey sense, like if you were able to play like professionally or something like that you couldn't take on those one-on-ones. You couldn't, like, if you become like the head of a brokerage, like you couldn't, you know, do that. I don't know. It's a back and forth thing for me. I don't want to limit myself, but at the same time, I always would love to give everybody like this personal vibe that I'm giving right now.
Sure. And I guess, I don't know. I guess to some extent, you know, I look at it from like if I would become I would be the broker of record, right? I would branch off and start my own brokerage. My hope then would be, okay, well, now I'm training everybody to be like I was and have that interaction and still have that ability to do that. Well, my role might have changed, which is fine. I mean, it evolves, right? I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to be successful. I certainly want to be successful, but to the extent of like taking away all that, it's almost as if like I don't want the customer then to be shorted, right? So, you know, if I become the broker of record, then I can't give them the service that I know I'm providing them. Whereas then if I do become a broker of record, I have the opportunity to then train somebody or pull somebody on that I know has the same morals as me, that has the same level of customer service as I did. You know, and it's like, okay, I go professional ball hockey, I start getting paid. Well, then I can't do the one-on-ones. Well, you know, then I call somebody and I pull somebody in that I know has the same mentality as I do. You know what I mean? So it's not, I guess, I'm looking at my crystal ball saying that this is going to happen. But, you know, in the end, I think it goes back to why we do what we do, is we genuinely want to provide good customer service and help people in a sense. And I think as long as they're being taken care of as customers, then I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you just said there, I mean, that's just kind of almost, you almost elaborated on the ball hockey thing as like making like a scaling a business. You know, it's like you were the only person, and then it's like, well, now I have somebody else. Like, here's my associate. He'll teach you how to dangle. It's like, so, or that famous whip shot that you have. I don't know how to do that. You should probably teach me after we're done here.
I'll teach you if you teach me how to stick handle. All right. I can't stick handle worth a damn. So
that's a fair trade. So. I mean, again, though, actually, you know, real quick, while we're on the ball hockey topic again, I didn't ask you this question, and I was interested in it. Can you put your finger on, like, your favorite memory from all the stuff that you've done?
Wow.
It's a tough
That
question.
is a loaded question. Mm, mm, mm. I don't know. It's really tough to put on one. I mean, there's so many big moments that I've had, and I've been a part of. Still going back, like the first national championship we won, that was at the freshman age group.
Yeah.
That, if I have to say anything, that's probably it, because it kind of started to like change. It started to like change me as a player.
Yeah.
So up until that point, so we always had a rival with the Wizards. So just a little like history here, right? So a lot of people don't realize like why we're called the Gods, the Pittsburgh Gods, and people might perceive it as arrogant. That's fine. Yeah. If you knew anybody on the team, then you wouldn't think that. But but we're called the Gods because when we were, I was 13, I was 14. Our rival were the Wizards. Mark Madden coached the Wizards. And there's a kid on our team. We were trying to figure out, we just finished up the season or something like that, and we were trying to figure out, okay, what our jerseys were going to look like the next season. Yeah. And we were going to change our team name. Yeah. And he said to Corey, he goes, what's the only thing that can beat a Wizard? I swear to God, that's why we're called the Gods.
Oh my gosh.
So the only thing that can beat a Wizard is a God. So then we became the Gods. Wow. Sure as shit, the next year was the first time that we beat the Wizards, and we beat them in the national championship, and then we never lost to them again. Wow. And from a personal standpoint, it was always going into those games. Now, keep in mind, I was always the younger kid. So I was I think it was freshman age. So I would have been, freshman 16 to 19. So I would have been 15. And my mentality going into those games were, we're going to lose. Yeah. Because up until that point, we always did. Right. So after the first time we beat them, it was like a light switch went off, and my mentality completely changed. And it was always like, okay, well, we're not going to lose. So I started really approaching hockey from a mental standpoint then. And it was more about like mental preparation, mental, not trickery. That's not the right word, but definitely taking it from a mental approach. Yeah. It helped that, I finally started growing a little bit. I put on some weight, put on some muscle, and, that helped from a mature standpoint. But I think it was always between the years is what kind of let us down. And it was always like, when's it going to go wrong? Yeah. When are they going to score? That was kind of like the mentality, opposed to like, imposing our will. And I think over the course of, the next couple of years after that, I think is really whenever we kind of really started to take off, because then we lost to them once and then we never lost to them again. I mean, it was like, that was the team that we couldn't beat, and we finally beat them. Yeah. Like what, so then freshman ended, and then men's became a thing, and then we had the same hurdle in men's. For the longest time, we couldn't beat the Blackhawks, which is the Leominster team, Bobby Hauser and those guys. We couldn't beat them. They would beat us in overtime. I mean, we played them countless times. I mean, incredible games. But it was always, they found a way to win. They scored a late goal, and it was kind of that mentality again of like, when's it going to happen? Right. Like, we know it's going to happen. When's it going to happen? Right. And then we beat them once, and then never lost to them again. Yeah. So I definitely started to change my mental approach on hockey for sure. Yeah. One of my favorite books is Tim Grover's in Unstoppable. I think it's Unstoppable. He was the personal trainer for Michael Jordan, Kobe, D Wade, some like the higher end guys, and it had nothing to do about the physical aspect of it. It was the mental aspect of it. Yeah. It was the mental aspect of being an elite. Yeah. And the amount of pressure that you put on yourself. Right. I remember reading the book, and then shortly after I read the book, I watched a video. I forget how it came up. I watched the video of Muhammad Ali's "I'll show you how great I am" speech. Yeah. And my mindset changed of like when I heard it before to when I heard it afterwards. I always thought Muhammad Ali was just this arrogant, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's probably the greatest boxer of all time, but he was this arrogant, like boxer and everything like that. But then after I read the book, I'm like, no, like he's saying that to put the pressure on himself to prove that that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you how great I am.
Right.
Like that's not him being arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
That's him saying, okay, well, I said it, sure as shit. Now I got to go out there and back it up.
Yeah.
Now I got to go do it.
Yeah.
You know? So it was just, once I read the book, it was just a complete mental change. And from that point on, it was kind of like a complete evolution of I think, honestly, of my hockey game, and everything kind of stemmed from there. Now, all that said, I know I went off on a little tangent. I would definitely, the first freshman championship would be there for sure. When I coached in 2016, that was probably one of the highlights of my life too, was coaching the junior U20 team, the preparation leading up to that. Not a specific moment. I mean, obviously when we won bronze, that was pretty special. Winning bronze, that was pretty special. But I mean, there's so many good memories. You know, it's, I'm sure people probably roll their eyes when I say this, but like, as much as we've won as a men's team, it's still just as rewarding every time we do it. Like, it's not like, well, we won again.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Like, because I know personally, I put myself through hell and back getting ready for these tournaments, and obviously when we're there, putting it all on the line and doing the things that we need to do, it's very rewarding to still be successful because, you know, we got a pretty big bullseye on our back whenever we play.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think how does last year rank winning down at RMU the Clash? I mean, I think that one's special just because it was in front of Pittsburgh fans.
Yeah, we don't get to do that often.
Yeah, hopefully we get to do that more. That was awesome.
Well, that's the plan, and we're still hoping to be able to do that this year. And obviously with the whole COVID thing, it didn't work out. But yeah, no, that was pretty special. Well, that was special for a couple different reasons. That was the first year anybody's won all four majors. So we won Super Bowl bye weekend. Yeah. We won North Americans. We won clubs, and then we won Clash of Titans in December. So that was the first time anybody's done that. Yeah, I mean that was pretty special though. Yeah. Backyard type. You know, I say, I don't know. I hope that you were down there for the Friday night game against Midnight or Red Light.
I believe I was. Yeah. It was
you believe you were.
It was stacked, dude. Yeah, it was. I was on the glass.
Yeah. That rivals playing in Czech on their national TV in 2007. Yeah, 2007. Yeah. That's the only thing that will rival that. I mean, like when you're over there and you're playing the home team, like the entire town shuts down. The stadium's completely.
I've seen the video. Yeah, it was crazy.
10,000 people there. It's absolutely nuts. Well, that's the first time that we ever did this. There's so they had like both teams came out the same tunnel. Right? Yeah. All the lights went down. Jesus. Fog machines are coming up. Yeah. The sparklers are going out, and you're running out through it. It's just like, my God, this is what it feels like to make it, right? Like, this is awesome. And, you know, just having the chills before the game and obviously the nerves, like you just can't wait to play. And then we end up beating them in a shootout, which was pretty sweet. Friday night was pretty damn special, though. Yeah. I think it was a long time coming with playing Red Light. It was the first time they came to the States, you know, to play and, you know, to put on a good showing. Yeah. It was funny though, because leading up to it, we were doing a lot of practices and scrimmages and stuff like that. And we were scrimmaging against, I think we were scrimmaging against Blitz. Yeah. Might have been some Blitz guys or whatever it was. I forget who it was. It was either Joe Haney or Tony, Gavlik. Yeah. And I said to them, no, it was Thursday. Yeah, I think it was Thursday night. I forget. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But I said to him, I was like, I'm going to score on the first shift. I told him, I was like, I'm going to score on the first shift. Yeah. And they were like, okay. So I guess they like take bets and stuff like who's going to score the first goal or whatever. I guess they do it quite often. But anyway, I was like, I'm going to score on the first shift. So sure enough, I come down. I had a chance on the first shift too, and I end up he made a really nice blocker save on me, and I was like, shit. Yeah. So I went off, and I was all pissed off at myself, but. Second shift, I went out there and scored, so I was okay. There you go. Yeah, it was nice. Nice. That game was nuts, though. Yeah. And then we got to see him again in the semis. Yep, in the semis. Yeah. Yeah, we played him again in semis.
Good stuff. Man. Yep. Yeah. I imagine that with all of the like you said, all of like the high pressure situations and all of like, like at international level men's, versus red light, all
Sure.
that sort of stuff. You talk a lot about the mental
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it and how that's changed. Obviously physically too. And maybe we touch on that first because I think that might be, I want to see a little more straightforward.
Okay.
Like, do you do anything? I'm just interested because I need to get stronger. So this is a selfish question. Like, what is your actual? I know you don't. We've had this conversation before. I think Dan and I also as well. You guys don't play extremely often, right? You practice like once a week. You have big tournaments, a few times a year and stuff like that. So contrast that with like people that play a lot. Like I would probably say that I play more, but not as the high level. So it's like a quantity versus quality type thing.
Sure.
What do you do to stay at like physical peak condition? Like, do you do anything special from a workout perspective as well, or is it just kind of just getting, just staying moving and stuff?
Yeah. So I have a couple gym rat buddies type. Mike Bain's one.
Yeah.
Jason Daly's another.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of recently given me some twists on some of the stuff that I was doing from more of like a preparation standpoint. Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that it's a lot easier just to stay in shape rather than to get back in shape.
For sure.
So, we do have pretty big lulls in our season. We have Super Bowl bye weekend, which is typically in February. Last weekend of March is North Americans. June was our club championships down at RMU, and then usually in December or Clash. So those are typically the 4 tournaments that we go to every single year. So there are some pretty big gaps in between. Now the one's nice and easy because it's beach season, so you typically always want to stay in shape for the beach. Yeah. But the second one, you have a couple holidays that fall in between, and it starts to get a little colder and things like that. So I mean, I'm a gym rat. It's one of my passions is just going to the gym. My wife does yoga as her kind of release. Yeah. Me going to the gym is my release. It's my thing. So very rarely do I miss a day at the gym. I tend to always find time to squeeze it in, whether it's super late at night or first thing in the morning.
Every day.
Almost every day. Weekends are tough, obviously, being in real estate. So occasionally I'll miss a day in the weekend or something. But, it's just super important to me. I truly believe that that's something that has helped me stay on the top of my game. Yeah. Always trying to obviously stay in shape, but then also, trying new things, if you will. So Bain's a little bit older. Sorry, Bain.
Sorry, Bain. Yeah.
But so his approach on things is a little bit different than mine. Whereas like just recently I was talking to Daly a little bit about some stuff, and his approach was a little bit different than mine. Right. So not being dead set on something that you have to do, but kind of morphing into things that you might not be overly comfortable with that might make a little bit of a difference. Right. So, I mean, if you want, I can go specifics into the workout, but I mean, just in general, it's just always going to the gym, always committing yourself to, kind of staying in shape and being in shape. And then, it's again, the mental aspect of it when you get there. So I'm a firm believer of, we have a lot of leaders on our team, our men's team, and we have practice once a week. I never miss practice. I'm a firm believer of nobody should miss practice. Right. I go to practice to get better. You ask any of my teammates, I'm always trying to like look at them and try to do something. I mean, it might be surprising to you. One of the teammates I learned the most from is Johnny Rethage, the goalie, because he sees the opposite perspective of me. Right. So if I'm coming down and I'm trying to make a move, or I'm coming down and trying to do this, well, he sees that. So if I'll have a breakaway against the other goalie, he sees it. And then once we take a break, I'll go ask him. I'll say, all right, what did I do wrong? Or what should I have done there? Or whatever it was. If I come down and score on him, I'm like, all right, well, how did I beat you? So, from a physical standpoint, obviously having the tools to be there, but then also at practice, actually being there. Yeah. Having a commitment to get to the gym, but then also having a commitment to get to the hockey rink as well. Yeah. There's a lot of leaders there, but I feel like if your leaders are at practice, why the hell aren't you at practice? Yeah. Like you need to be there too, regardless of who you are and what role you play. it has helped recently. Corey's done a really good job at implementing, kind of injecting our team with a lot of youth, which has helped. But on the flip side of it, some of the guys that need to come to practice aren't coming to practice, and those are the older guys that probably are a little bit more out of shape than some of the younger guys or whatever it is. But hey, listen, it's their prerogative.
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm working on my craft. I'm not going to get out of shape. Hopefully they can catch up if they're out of shape. Hopefully they can catch up before the tournament starts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's just kind of tough. And obviously the stuff that we've mentioned to this point, life and things get in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer of you can make excuses and reasons not to be there, but you can also make excuses and reasons to be there.
Right.
It was tough. I know last year it was tough on like Doc, for instance, with kids and his wife's work schedule and stuff like that. It was really hard for him to make practices, but there were times he came to practices with his kids.
Yeah.
So
if you want to be there, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to say because I don't have kids. At the most, I maybe have to drop the dog off at my parents' house or something like that.
Yeah.
But, if you want to be there, if you want to get better, it's your choice to do that.
For sure.
It's up to you whether you want to commit fully to do that or not.
Yeah. I mean, you can't knock people for it. Just it's everybody's different. Everybody's got their, like you said, their prerogative. So,
yeah.
You mentioned, and it's something that really resonated with me earlier because I absolutely do that specifically in ball hockey. And occasionally, I mean, I think even in like business or work or anything like that, I want to call it like almost like self-doubt a little bit. Like when you were talking about earlier, how you went from the transition once you decided to flip that mental switch. And before you were like, oh, you're up, this situation, you're up 3 goals and like, oh shit, they got one now. It's 3-1 now. Like, oh, the floodgates are open type of thing. Terrible feeling. What did you like? This is a tough thing, I think, maybe to actually like, make almost tangible, but what happened? What are some actionable things that you did, giving advice to me or anybody that's like in this position to go from, whether it's ball hockey or anything, to go from, okay, like not reacting, but almost like being proactive in a sense. And like you said imposing your will almost on the other team. Like what did you actually do? How did you actually change your mindset in those situations?
That's really tough. Honestly, I don't think it's changing your mindset in that situation anymore. I think it's you're like a year over year, right? So year 1, we weren't able to beat the Wizards.
Right.
Year 2, we were. Starting year 2, it was that mentality was then from there on out, right? Now, obviously, we hit another roadblock with the Leominster team, but again, once you're, and this sports, especially overtime, shit happens.
Yeah.
Hits off a guy. I still remember we lost Clash of the Titans. I think it was the second year. Guy comes down the left side. Jared goes to block it, hits off Jared's shin guard, goes right up over Nixie's shoulder and goes in the net, and they win in overtime.
Jeez.
Shot that shouldn't have gone in, and it wouldn't have gone in, except it hit Jared's shin guard or his knee guard and went up over his foot. Yeah. Shit happens, right? So occasionally you get a good bounce, and it happens your way, and it's beneficial for you that way. But once it happens, from that point on, that mentality is the mentality. It's not anything. There's no deviating from that. So from that point moving forward is like, okay, we beat them. They're not beating us again. It's more mental than it is anything that you could potentially do physical. And again, it goes back to kind of my way of things. It's like, well, I'm not getting out of shape. I'm always just going to stay in shape. I'm always going to come to practice, and I'm always going to work on my craft. So if you're not getting complacent with where you're at with your winning, then I think you're in a good spot. Yeah, I really do. And I think that's one of the things. By no means am I patting ourselves on the back, but I think that's one of the. I think it's one of the most. The fact that the gods win, and we've continued to win, I think is one of the most like historic things that you could potentially talk about in our sport. And we've won every single different way. Right. So the fact that we're on the mountaintop and everybody's trying to knock us off and we're still on the mountaintop, I think there's so much to be said for that. Yeah. And it's real easy for me to sit here and say that because I'm on the team. Yeah. But I think if you step back and you actually look at what we've accomplished, how long we've accomplished it, and how we continue to accomplish it, I think it's second to none. I really do. And we win a big tournament. Mark gives us a nice shout out on his show and things like that. And like, we do have our recognition. It's not, I'm not sitting here pleading, hey, everybody recognize us. We're really good. But I think that's also part of my driving force is making sure we stay there.
Right.
I feel like I have a pretty big role in making sure we do. And again, that just goes back to my mentality of like, okay, I'll show you how great I am. Yeah. I'm saying it now. I got, I'm walking the walk or talking the talk. Now I got to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And it starts with getting in the gym, staying in the gym. It starts with getting to practice, coming to every practice, learning from your peers. I mean, I watch the NHL. It's like, I look at some of these guys and what they're doing. It's like, how the hell did he do that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, next practice, I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah.
You bet your ass I'm going to try to do that. So just never being complacent, to be honest with you, I think is the best way to do it. But it's a mental thing. I truly believe that it's a mental thing. I think that's one of the biggest things when you're coaching kids that aren't necessarily fully mature. The biggest hurdle and difficulty you have is actually trying to convince them that it's okay. That, okay, even though we're down 2 and there's 2 minutes left, that's a long time to score 2 goals. Yeah. So I think that's one of the probably the more difficult things is just the mentality of it. But that's kind of my favorite aspect of it is the mentality of it. And I think if you're more mentally strong than anybody else, then you're already a leg up. Yeah. I know. I always talk about like the biggest difference between like Jordan and LeBron. And I think LeBron's probably the most like gifted basketball player to ever play the game. I think if you're going to argue that, I think you're silly. Yeah. I mean, he's a tight end, a linebacker playing basketball and has like skills of a ballerina. Yeah. Like it's just stupid that somebody's that physically gifted. But I don't think he'll ever be in the conversation on Michael simply because he's not mentally tough like Michael was. I mean,
oh my God.
Like,
I assume you watched the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's usually background noise for me now, right? Yeah. Like it's occasionally on in the background while I'm doing work and stuff, but it's like and not everybody can be like that. And it's okay that not everybody's like that. But personally, that's where I'm at. That's where I want to be. I want to be that hyper focused on something that's in front of me. And, when it's a month before tournament, that's what I'm completely engulfed and ingrained in being the best that I can possibly be. And it's like, either get on my level or, you're going to be left behind kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so.
I feel you. Well, it's absolutely special, going back to the gods and everything like that, obviously what you guys have been able to do. I think, though, if I may make a connection, to anybody that's potentially watching this that knows you, as we said before, right? If you've watched to this point of this episode, then you probably had a preconceived notion of maybe who Steve Gregory was now. And now you've listened to all this and you're like, wow, Steve, maybe I didn't know, like maybe I played against him, right? Even me, I'm sitting here, I feel the same way. Yeah. And it's like, people probably look at the gods, for instance, or any other, big team. And it's like, wow, what are they doing? Like, how did they get to that point? Probably some people just like, kind of write you guys off almost as just like, like, I don't know what they think of you. They probably are just jealous or something like that. But the point is, in the way that I always like to kind of contextualize all this stuff is when you actually listen to everything that you just said, and I'm sure there's other guys, the majority of that team and the team as a whole feels that same way and puts in the work and has been able to achieve what you're able to achieve. Yeah. You can't disrespect that. You can't write that off.
Yeah. And, I think it's unique. It's really unique because part of our team, we grew up playing against each other. Yeah. So there are parts of our team still, not as much anymore, but there are parts of our team that we grew up, the guys that played on the Wizards and the gods now played together. Right. So it went from this hatred to now you guys are brothers. And it's funny because like I see other teams and they're like, oh, brotherhood bond, like all that stuff like that. It's like, no, people don't, from an outsider's, and again, I don't assume people to know this because I think for the most part the gods in general are very kind of low key. Like there's not loud mouths. I mean there are, but there's not like, everybody's kind of like pretty chill, right? But people don't realize like there are so many pairs of brothers on our team, right? And then on top of the pairs of brothers, everybody who gets married, the team gets invited to the wedding.
Yeah.
So when you say it's a brotherhood, it's a family, like, I mean, we have a shirt that says, family on it.
Right.
But that's the honest to God truth.
Yep.
So like when we go away, you're not playing for yourself. You're playing for the guy next to you. I mean, we always talk about the logo on the front is the most important thing. And occasionally we'll have teams like Marky Bagamersk. I also call him just Bergie. Everybody knows who Bergie is.
Yeah.
He played for us up at Clash of the Titans a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to hear him say, after we end up losing, unfortunately, but he ended up saying, he goes, now I understand what God's hockey is.
Right.
And that's the honest to God truth.
Yeah.
We are never the most skilled team, ever. We don't have the skill guys. We got a couple guys that are lights out, but we are a team, and we are the epitome of a team.
Yeah.
I always say the reason why we win as much as we do for two reasons. We have Johnny Rethage in that, and we have Corey Hirsch as our coach.
Yeah.
Because outside of that, we're pretty average. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have really good players. Ricky Zimick on defense. Like we have really good players throughout. But we're nothing special. Like we go against these like super skilled Canadian teams and like the teams from Leominster and stuff like that. They wipe the floor with us as far as talent's concerned. But we're not there to beat you 1-on-1. We're going to beat you 5-on-5. We're going to beat. So it is different. It's a different type of hockey. Some consider it boring. Like we go up to Canada and we'll play some of the big Canadian teams and like, we'll do like a 1-2-2 trap or something like that, right? And they're like, what are they doing? But they don't know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, come third period, we're winning 4-0.
Right.
They're not talking shit anymore because now we're winning.
Right.
They're talking shit in the first period because they're like, oh, you guys don't play hockey. It's like bullshit. That's hockey.
Right.
And then we're playing in the championship on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we'll play our hockey. We like our brand of hockey. We're okay with that. So,
I mean, it's an interesting. That's the thing, though. I mean, because you can only in the individual talent in a team sport like this. I've started to learn is only going to take you so far, right? And that's why ball hockey and a lot of other team sports are just become like beautiful in a sense because you have to have that, and that's where you have the most success is when you have people that buy into that system, and obviously like the actual brotherhood and the family aspect that you guys have really built there, and is wrapped and all entangled in the team is just. Continued to, just breed success there. So that's tremendous.
Yeah, and it's cool because like a lot of people don't realize like we have a group God's text.
Yeah.
So like every time like today it's Phil Trantner's birthday and Ricky Zimick's birthday. Yeah. So as guys are waking up in the morning, the WhatsApp starts blowing up, and it's like, happy birthday, Z, happy birthday, Phil. And it's just like, and then there's nothing but ball busting in the group text message. And it's just like, some guy plays down 279 or something like that. And, somebody hears that he did something he shouldn't have done or something like that. Well, then all of a sudden everybody's busting his balls in a group text. So it's never off. I mean, it's always there, and again, I think that goes back to like the whole brotherhood thing. It's serious, man. It really is. And you can knock it all you want, but we're okay with it. Yeah. It helps us. It helps us come together on Sunday whenever things don't look so bright, and you don't want to go back out there and play again because you're so damn sore, but you do it because the guy sitting in the stall next to you is going to do it too. So. Right.
Yeah, I mean, whatever works. If it's working.
Yeah,
change
that's it.
it.
No.
I want to ask a question again, kind of jumping a little bit here, but like when we talked about like real estate and everything, ball hockey, as you've just described there, has always been a very important part of your life. A very big passion. And then we talked about, previously like professionalism versus authenticity and all this sort of stuff. And actually, I think before we went on the air, you were talking about like we had the conversation about marketing and how you leave like some of your personal side of things out. What is your actual like stance on that? Like, do you think, have you ever thought about this as a random marketing question? Have you ever thought about like injecting some more of your personal side, like the ball hockey and stuff like that, into your personal brand, or do you think that would just detract from what you're trying to do professionally?
That's a good question. So it's in part has been encouraged. Yeah. So like my brokerage has we have a social media specialist that comes in every once in a while and kind of gives us pointers and stuff like that. And that's something that she's talked about. Yeah. And I mentioned this to you before we started. Yeah. I am a very private person.
Yeah.
So if I do what I need to do on my social media for work, not for personal sake.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that there aren't personal things on there. You know, I mean, one of my favorite things in the world is my dog. One of my favorite things in the world, and he's on there a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we'll post, you know, Christmas cards and stuff like that on there, you know, Merry Christmas from the Gregorys, you know, that kind of stuff. So I do think there's a line there. And I think that line might be a little bit different for me than it might be for some others. My social media is purely business based. Gotcha. It's not personal based. That's why I have a business Facebook page. I do have a personal Facebook page. Yeah. But I have a business Facebook page that's where I do my marketing. My Instagram, I don't have a personal Instagram. That's my work Instagram. Right. Like that's it. So, you know, I like to keep it that way. Because for a couple different reasons. One, if I'm going to focus on something, I want something to focus on that could be potentially lucrative for me. Right. Right. So I'm not wasting my breath putting my bullshit opinion out there that doesn't matter or could be considered controversial or whatever, you know? Right. So to avoid that all, I'll just stick with the business side of things. And then, you know, in addition to that, like, again, it kind of goes back to just being just very private. I'm a very modest person, and, you know, I live modestly. My wife is that way too. And, and I know I shared the story already, but it's like, you know, when I first had to start doing social media, I still remember one of the very first posts that I did was we went out to dinner. Yeah. And out to dinner with my wife, and that day earlier, the social media expert said, you know, you need to start posting more personal stuff. Yeah. So sure enough, we went out and our food came, and I kind of like gave this like kind of like weird look over to Kristen. And she goes, "What?" And I was like, "I'm really sorry." I said, "But can I take a picture of the food before you eat it?" And she was like, she kind of like looked at me like, "What?" And I was like, "I got to post it on Instagram." And she goes, "Yeah, that's fine." So this is Kristen. So I take both pictures, and right before I posted, she goes, "Let me see." The pictures weren't good enough. So she had to take them. So she had to stage the table, you know, the napkin here and like doing that whole thing or whatever.
Girls are good at that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And to this day, she still does it. So yeah, I mean, and luckily she's okay to an extent. She understands that her and I kind of share that belief of personal's personal. Right. You know, we don't need to be, you know, touting all of our problems. And again, it goes back to, you know, so many people post just positive, you know, like, look how great my life is, when it's really not that great. So we'll leave my personal stuff with mine, but at the same time, it is important to share some personal stuff, you know, things that I like to do, and, you know, my animals and, you know, all that fun stuff. And, you know, it is super important to include that stuff too. But I think, for the most part, but my wife and I were pretty closed off from everybody. And, you know, so the social media realm doesn't need to know what I'm doing every day.
Definitely. I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic. Like you say there, it's like everybody has obviously a personal life, but then some people's, the situation that you're in, like the job that you are, you know, the career that you're building heavily relies on people, the humanization of that and everything.
Yeah. So. No, absolutely. And so there's some other agents that I follow, right? And like one, she recently found out she's pregnant. Yeah. Well, of course that's something that you should post. Like, you know, people would be super excited about that. Yeah. A couple other agents have kids, you know, with the whole COVID thing, them having to go to school from home and like all that stuff like that. Like, of course that's something that you'd post. That's the equivalent of me posting my dog. Like that's to the, you know, so, you know, and again, I'm not knocking the people that do. Right. It's their prerogative. Some people use it as business. Some people use it as self-motivation. Some people use it as self-proclamation. So each to their own. I just know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to use it for me.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a random scenario for you that is somewhat related to that, but ties more into ball hockey because you've built the professional, like, ego, you know, like ego, I'll say, or whatever, like the professional landscape there. if we transition over to ball hockey and we talk about all the things that how the sport has grown and the places that you are, tournament coordinator and all this sort of stuff, high profile player. If somebody comes to you with the intention of like, growing the game through, I don't know if anybody's done this. I know that there are companies that are, digging in deeper to ball hockey. Bauer's one, I think they're sponsoring Clash and stuff like that.
Yep.
They're making more ball hockey, like specific equipment and things like that. Napper also out in Canada, I think somewhere.
Yep.
They're doing that sort of stuff. If they come to you, and obviously Milek, huge. Like if one of those brands came to you and said, "Hey, Steve, we want to do something with you that is to grow the game, like almost like as put you as the face of one of those things," or anybody. I mean, but like, what is kind of your personal thought on that? Has that happened? And like, what's the like? Is that a scenario where you think that the positivity of pulling in ball hockey into like that sphere of your brand, do you think that would be beneficial, or would you still not be comfortable with that?
Yeah. So. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
There were talks about that slightly.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that my face on a poster, or me wearing gloves or using a particular stick is going to necessarily help grow the game.
Yeah.
I feel like there's much better ways of me helping support it. So I would almost rather Bauer sponsor a clinic that I run.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or a Q&A or something along those lines. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I think I think that's a little bit less invasive in a sense, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Opposed to like having to do like a photo shoot and like that always being out there and stuff like that. It's just not my cup of tea. Like I feel like I'm a bigger belief of shading, having somebody else give somebody else the notoriety, the recognition. Like that's not something I want. If it's genuinely something that can help the sport, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say no, but I believe that I think a clinic would be more beneficial of, me, my time, my name, however you want to phrase it.
Right.
I think that would be more beneficial than, my name on a poster or something like that. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Just a random thing that I thought, because I know that I don't know if there's specific people that are getting those calls in a sense, but I know, and again, it's a product of the game being grown. Like it's awesome to actually see.
I would say it's a good thing,
like
right?
the equipment that some of I have. It's like cool to have like actual ball hockey equipment rather than just like ice hockey stuff that you kind of like modify.
That's it. Yeah, I mean they got shoes now, and they got it's sticks are being made a little bit differently than ice hockey. They're made in, obviously your different brands, like you were talking about all those brands and stuff like that. So I mean it's an exciting time to be in the sport. It's an exciting time to be a part of it too. Whether it's showing your support and buying a pair of new Bauer gloves or whatever the case is, you being a part of it, however you do it, I think is pretty exciting too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I have 3 big questions for you that I try to ask everyone on the show. Well, one of them is kind of like a layup, but 3 things that again kind of coalesce like the whole idea of Fueled by Progress and everything that we do, and I think really just kind of tie it all together with understanding who our guest is, what they're about, and again just helping the people that potentially listen. So first one is, who are your 3 biggest influences, would you say? Like they could be entities, they could be people specifically. And it's tough because obviously people like us, we do a bunch of different things. So just like in general though, 3 biggest influences, however you want to, explain it, just people that have had strong impacts on your life.
Man, that is rough.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, so I'll take a couple different approaches at this, kind of 3-pronged.
Okay.
How many did you ask for?
3, yeah.
So perfect, 3 prongs, triangle. First will be from like a hockey perspective. So from a hockey perspective, it's without a doubt Corey.
Yeah.
He's been my mentor through countless stuff. Him and I are extremely close. We're not as close as we used to be, but I mean, it was every day we would talk on the phone.
Yeah.
even now the coach player dynamic is unique. And then when we're off the rink, it's something that's completely different. So he's been a huge role model to me through everything. And I definitely think he's helped morph me in the hockey player that I am now and what I've become. I feel obviously with maturity you grow physically, mentally, and everything else. And he's kind of guided me in that way. I used to be more of a power forward, if you will, kind of like a bull in a china shop, real good around the boards and things like that. And, he's encouraged me to change my game a little bit. So now I'm, more of a distributor, more of a goal scorer, playmaker type. I used to play wing and only left wing. And now I'm playing center the last couple of years. And I feel like my game is catapulted because of doing that. And he sees something in me that I don't always see. So from a hockey perspective, it's without a doubt him. The type of person that I am is definitely 100% my dad. So I'm one of three. I'm the middle child of three. My brother's 12 and a half months older than me. My sister's 93, so 4 years younger than me. But the unique thing about my dad was my dad didn't necessarily always have to say a whole lot. It was kind of like you knew. Yeah. Right? And he takes after his dad. And it's super unique because I already see so much of him in me, and it's scary. It's not just scary for me, but scary for my mother too. Oh my goodness. But he's definitely made me the person I am today. My high expectations of people, high moral compass, always trying to do right and what's best for everybody. And I feel like that kind of quietness, if you will, that kind of, stay behind the scenes type guy, the mentality I definitely get from him because that's how he is too. But, he's had, nothing. He's morphed me into the man that I am today. So it's really, really easy. I still remember the one time when I was younger, I thought it was cool, and I was, I thought I was going to chew tobacco. It was a cool thing, right? Yeah. So my one buddy played for North Hills football team, so I went to the North Hills football game, and I get a phone call. No, I get a text message. I get a text message from my dad, and it said something along the lines of, heard you were doing things that you shouldn't be doing, or something. Yeah. So I had no idea what he was talking about. Yeah. So I'm like, shit. Anytime my dad's like, it's like, that's not good. So I get home and I see my mom first, and my mom says something along the lines of like, yeah, your dad found out that you were, chewing tobacco or something like that. And I'm like, oh shit. How in the hell did they find out? I'm at I think they played Penn Hills. I'm like at Penn Hills High School. Yeah. North Hills, like, were they there? Like, I'm like looking around.
Eyes,
like,
man. They got eyes
hell?
in the sky.
So took the long walk down the steps down to my dad's office in the basement. And I sat down, and he didn't say anything, at the exception of, I'm disappointed. Yeah. Nothing else had to be said. Just the fact that he was disappointed. And that was kind of like, always the relationship I had with my dad was, he was a man of few words, but you kind of always knew how he felt. And that definitely still resonates with me today. Anytime I'm like contemplating on doing something, it's like, no, like, he'd be pissed if I'm doing that. Right. So even if it's like, I had one too many drinks or something like that, instead of driving home and knowing if I would get caught, he would be disappointed in me. He would so much rather be pissed off at me that I woke him up at 1:30 in the morning to come and pick me up than for me to drive. So my dad's definitely been it. And then from a professional standpoint, and I think I touched on this earlier, is that it was without a doubt my wife. So she's the reason why I stopped hating what I was doing. She's the reason why I, found my calling. And I truly believe that I found my calling. She's the reason why I am able to do this. I mean, even from a financial standpoint, she supported us for the first 2 years of me being in real estate. I made next to no money. And she was the one supporting us, and honestly never really complained. I mean, she's a saint. So I think two of the three are cop-out answers,
Yeah.
but it's the honest to God truth. I mean, there's plenty of others out there that I could name. I mean, my brother and I are so close. It's growing up, he was always my motivation, to be better. And I think he would say the same about me. I have so many friends that I'm so close with, but if there's three pillars, those three are probably the three.
Definitely. No, I can't argue with that. Those are great. Definitely understand each one of those.
Yeah.
So that is tremendous that they've all had that sort of positive impact. And again, like you said, just wraps it all up into that nice package of pillars there. So tremendous. Next one. Best advice that you could give somebody. Again, these are very like broad things, but best advice that you give somebody. It doesn't have to be really specific, but just overall life advice. And whether you want to go professionally or hockey, if you want to take the pillar approach again too, that was a nice way to do it.
Yeah.
But just like in general, things that have brought you success, like pieces of like a little piece of knowledge or a couple or whatever that have just really you think made your life better and you think other people could benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything stems from just like, finding yourself. And I know that's probably a really difficult question for some, but I think you either realize that you're not doing what you were supposed to do, or you don't like what you're doing, and the difficulty is finding what that is.
Yeah.
So, just being true to yourself and honest with yourself in that sense. I mean, if I think it's applicable to anything, whether it's a personal life and you're not sure you want to be with the person you're with, or you do want to be with this person but it's complicated, or from a hockey standpoint, if you're playing wing and you should be playing center, whatever, right? Yeah. And then obviously from a professional and a life standpoint, being true to yourself in the sense of having the understanding that you don't have to have shit figured out right now.
Yeah.
That's the honest to God truth. And I feel like there's so many pressures on everybody to have their life completely figured out at 30.
Yeah.
When the hell did you need to have shit figured out at 30?
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe we look at our parents. I don't know about you, but like my parents, they, I think my mom was 31 when she had me, and obviously my brother before. I don't know. Maybe we look at our parents and say that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure social media doesn't help, and everybody, thinks that they're looking at everybody's happy life and how great their life is, and then they think, well, shit, my life's not that great.
Yeah.
But one way or another, I think it's super important to just like, be honest with yourself and, have that real conversation with yourself and, figure shit out, but realize that you don't have to have it figured out right now because, I went to school. I spent a lot of money on school. I'm not doing anything I went to school for.
Yeah.
So, I think it's, you got to go to the beat of your own drum. I think that's super important, and not get caught up in what society's telling you to do with. And again, it's just staying true and honest to yourself. Yep.
I love that advice because that's kind of the mantra here. Just fueled by progress. Just continue to move forward. And I love that. Yeah, definitely an unrealistic expectation. Just have it all figured out, especially when you're young. Like you said, like 18. Yeah, I want to go to school for marketing and management and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm a real estate agent. Nothing wrong with that, but it's all part of the process,
Yeah, I feel like if there's like this magic key to like the future, I think it would be being able to get through to all like 17, 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because like in hindsight, me going to school was probably one of the dumbest things that I could have done.
I almost tend to agree the same.
Right.
With the stuff that
that's personal.
Yeah,
so like my wife's in medical. So like naturally
kind of need that.
Yeah. They don't let you in unless you have something, right?
Yeah.
But like you could just go be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Like you don't need high school.
Right.
Well, I think you do need a high school education.
Yeah.
I think so. You need it. But anyways.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like one of the most corrupt jobs is like these student advisors at these universities, because in reality it's like what are you going to school for?
Yeah.
Like you don't, if it's one thing if you want to go to school and party, okay, I get it. Like,
It's a lifestyle thing. It's like an experience.
Get it out of your system,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I get it. I understand.
It's a controlled environment.
Sure,
to
sure.
take care of that.
Yeah, I get it. That's fine. Go have some fun.
Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like it's almost borderline criminal. One, what universities are charging, but then two,
we didn't even talk about finance.
Right. But then two, it's like, I want to be a political science major. No offense to anybody who is a political science major, but it's like, all right, what does that mean? Do you have any idea what you're going to be able to do with that after you get it?
Yeah.
And it's like I guarantee 95% of the time nobody does.
Yeah.
And it's like there's people that their job is to tell them what that's going to be. And it's like, holy shit. So, I mean, if you have a key to unlock that, like, open those eyes of those 17, 18-year-olds of, hey, you don't have to have your shit figured out right now. Right. That's probably a pretty valuable key.
Yeah. I could talk for hours about that. So it's like it's just tough. I don't know how we expect that from our young people, but hopefully, everything that that I'm trying to do, like stuff that you're trying to do, just affect people, right? Hopefully, it's that trickle down effect, and we can just continue to make it a little bit better day by day.
That's it.
But okay, last one, easy layup. We talked about all the stuff that you're doing professionally from like real estate and stuff like that. If there's anything you would like to plug, I will have links and stuff in the descriptions and everything like that. But where can people find you? Anything that you do want people to kind of like know about?
Sure.
Even ball hockey too. If you want to kind of do some of the stuff there, just red carpet. What are you kind of doing? What would you like to tell people?
Yeah. So obviously, if you're looking to buy or sell a house, let me know.
Yeah.
Real estate Steve G on Instagram is the best place to find me. Real estate agents, at least this real estate agent, doesn't have any hours. So right now I'm dealing with a couple nurses. They work opposite hours. She gets done at 11 o'clock at night and, vice versa. So I don't have any hours.
Breaking into houses in the middle of the night.
It's vacant, right? Can you leave the window open? Okay, yeah, cool. But honestly, outside of that, just a few other things like USA Ball Hockey, usaballhockey.com. It is without a doubt the future of the sport. You can go and subscribe. I would suggest everybody going and subscribing, or I think signing up for the email or the newsletter. One of the perks of doing that is to show to corporations that we have this following. So we're hoping to get big time corporate sponsorships. We are working with a company, I believe they're called Empower Play. They're the ones that are actually paying for rinks to be put in, very similar to what the Pittsburgh Penguin Foundation was doing here. They're doing it all across the country. Nice. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Not too long ago, we had a Grow the Game Day event down at the Team Pittsburgh rink. We're going to be doing those throughout the country. At one point in time, the NHL wanted to do a Grow the Game Day event the same day in all 32 cities of the NHL teams.
Wow.
So big things are on the horizon. So make sure you're kind of tuned into that. USA Ball Hockey. I think it's USABAH, .com or something along those lines.
I'll have the link, yeah.
You type in USA Ball Hockey, it's going to come up for sure. Big stuff happening there. And then, local stuff, Team Pittsburgh. My dad's the executive director there. Super near and dear to my heart, right down the street. Doing great things from they're finally starting to, I think Pittsburgh as a whole is finally starting to really pay attention to their chipmunk age group. So few sixes, so 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they're the future of our sport. So I'm super focused on doing those. We're actually what weekend is it? I think it's the weekend of the 24th. Team Pittsburgh is putting on, Team Pittsburgh is putting it on. I'm running it as the tournament director. The Team Pittsburgh Classic, which is going to be fun. It's a youth tournament that we're having. Already have big time stuff out. But yeah, if you don't know about Team Pittsburgh, teampgh.com is going to be a great place to find that. And they got youth. They haven't dipped into men's yet. They don't want the headaches that deal with men's. So I'm sure there's not a whole lot of kids listening to the podcast. But
if you have kids,
teampgh.com is it. But no, I mean, I think if I can encourage everybody and anybody to continue to, pay attention to what you're doing, you're putting some good stuff out there, and
appreciate it.
I would imagine big things are on the horizon for you as well. So I'm glad I was able to come on today and provide some entertainment at the very least. I don't know if I provided any knowledge.
Dude, I think it was eye-opening probably for a lot of people. I think it was very good content. And I mean, I just appreciate you. Thank you so much, man.
No, absolutely. It was a lot of fun, and I don't know. I don't think I can get over the fact that I'm still the second real estate agent you have.
I'll have you back on.
All right, dude. That's good.
We'll do an update, and it'll be nice. Yeah. Maybe we'll have you on with Corey. You guys can like duke it out.
Oh, you don't want that. You don't want that. The two of us in the same room. You want to talk? That might be pay per view. You might need pay per view for that.
Yeah.
So.
We could solicit somebody. We get it on pay per view. That'll be maybe like $10 a watch or something like that.
We'll do nothing but argue back
It'll be
and
good.
forth.
It'll be
nothing
good.
but argue back.
It'll be good. Maybe a whole Gods episode. You never know.
Oh man,
I did watch that one. I think you had it with that was Deck Hockey
Deck
Focus.
Hockey
They're
Focus.
doing some good stuff
They
too. Check that
are,
out.
yeah,
I will
yeah.
put their link in the description. I love what they're doing.
Yeah, Deck Hockey Focus is they're good guys too. They're pretty fun. They just had their big tournament out in Iowa. Their 3-on-3 nationals out in Iowa. It was pretty fun. But yeah, that was a shit show. That was a shit
I watched
show.
that.
You had guys like Roy who couldn't not play video games and still like partake in. And then like, I think it was little Ricky like couldn't stop eating his Swedish fish, and all you heard was like for like 3 minutes before the guy finally muted his
over Zoom.
It's like, what are you doing? Like, what an idiot! But no, a good group of guys. They're a lot of fun. Yeah. Definitely some personalities on the team for sure.
For sure. Absolutely.
That's what makes us fun though.
Definitely. Well, again, man, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
I know we all had a great time. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Fueled by Progress with our guest, Steve Gregory. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next one.